You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Nesbit, and it's Christmas, or a few days before Christmas. It'll actually be Christmas Eve when this episode comes out. So, in keeping with last year's Christmas episode, and we're kind of keeping a new tradition alive, where the members of Night Demon, Dusty, Jarvis, and Armand, they get together with me and record a live episode. So, it's pretty fun to do. So, sit back, relax, crack your favorite Christmas beverage, whatever that is, and enjoy. This is the second annual Night Demon Christmas special. We are live for the second time ever with Armand, Dusty, and Jarvis of Night Demon. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Yo,
what's up?
What's going on?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. So live again for the first time in a year. 74 episodes in.
Whoo!
So, pretty cool.
Holy moly.
Pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
So you guys were spread out all over the place for a lot of, for a long time. Why don't you tell everybody where you guys are now and what you've been up to?
I am in the same... Actually, we're all in the same place that we were last year when we recorded this.
That's true.
The only other time we did that. So I'm in Ventura at HQ, we call it. And 2 doors down, Armand is at the Captain's Quarter Studios. And Dusty's in Pennsylvania. And you're in Newfoundland in the podcast studio. And yeah, so it's funny. I actually listened back to last year's episode, and we were saying, wow, this is kind of weird because this is not what we intended to do on the podcast, and we ended up doing it, and it actually came out pretty cool. And here we are again doing it. It's really hard to believe that it's already been a year, and you just said episode 74. I mean, that's just crazy. But I'm proud of all of us because we've kept it consistent all every week, and time has really flown by, so but here we are again, and it's another Christmas episode coming up here, so I don't know how Christmassy we're gonna get, but it's more, I guess, right, kind of just a year-end wrap-up. I know we had an episode where we did that last year on New Year's, but we have something very special planned for this New Year's episode. A very big announcement, and we want to save it for that. So, there's not much Christmas stuff for us to talk about. So I guess we'll kind of use this conversation for mostly for the year-end wrap-up. Fair enough?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, totally. But you guys spent a lot of time apart over this, last year. How long has it been since you guys spent that much time apart? Because you guys were basically
never
nonstop touring.
Yeah, no, we never spent more than a couple days apart, if anything. I mean, even that, maybe a day on tour when somebody goes one way and somebody goes another. Right. But to have time like this with the amount of distance in between, nah, never.
And then when you finally got back together and jammed, what was the first thing you guys played when you jammed for the first time when you got together?
Damn. Well, when I got back out to California, it was just Jarvis and I for a little bit because Armand was, I think he was on a trip and he wasn't back. He was in Turkey, if I remember. And right. I think Jarvis and I just basically ran through as much as we could. I mean, we played stuff that we never play. I think we did like Living Dangerous and like Run for Your Life and stuff that we,
nice.
just to kind of get the chops up and like, a bunch of stuff we've been working on and, really just kind of getting ourselves back in the swing of things,
We actually played every song. We played every song that we had. Most of actually not all of the covers, but most of them. But we played all the original songs and actually a lot of new stuff that we've been working on for the last couple of years that nobody's heard, and like that was really cool to get back in there and realize. Yeah, I don't know. I had spent a couple months working on that stuff because I was working out vocal stuff, so I was actually playing a lot to the tracks. But it was pretty crazy. It was almost a full calendar year before we had seen Dusty and gotten together,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it was a really, really long-ass time. And if it wasn't for the podcast, I mean, I was in Ireland for 6 months too, so it's like I didn't see Armand for 6 months. But, I mean, the podcast is the thing that really kind of kept it all together, where we were all still communicating on a regular basis and still talking about the band because, we had a lot of stuff in the can by that point, recording wise. And, this pandemic, I mean, it just keeps stretching out longer and longer and longer. Even now, it's just like more bullshit, So we just got to a point where we put those singles out in 2020, and we just didn't want to release any more music till we can go out and at least tour on those songs first, right? So, I'm not gonna say there wasn't a need for us to get to be together, but there wasn't a lot of things at Night Demon were constantly being demanded to be together because of everything that has to happen as far as touring and recording deadlines and all this stuff, So, it really, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a nice break because the thing is we kept talking to each other throughout the year, and there were so many tours that we had on the books, and we were one of the few bands that didn't announce anything so we wouldn't have to postpone or cancel. And we kept thinking, from January on, like, okay, we're going to be out in 4 months. Okay, we're going to be out in 6 months. Okay, what's happening with Heavy Hamburg Halloween, all this stuff. And we just kept, we were supposed to do a fall tour. There was all these things, and it just did not happen. So the fact that we did get together for the couple things that we had to do, the experiment that we're doing with basically living away from each other has worked. Dusty has been here 2 times now, and within those 2 times, I mean, there's been a shit ton of progress, and it's like we have a mission of what we're going to do, and we accomplished it both times. And last time, I think he was only out here for a week, and we actually did a lot more than we anticipated. So I'm happy to say that it's all working out.
I think I think it works out a little bit better for us too to have that kind of like limited time, because I think if you're, at home and everybody's on like a normal schedule, you're like, well, we got Tuesdays and Thursdays we can work for 4 hours a day. And, I think you kind of get stuck to your normal routine, where in this case, since we're so spread out, we get, the time that we have with each other is limited, and we have to make the most of it. And the last couple of times I went out, it's been like a total of like 8 weeks that I was out there, and super productive. We were doing something every day. And, that is what I think it's been helpful, even though it's as difficult to be apart and to be distant and stuff, but still to, make progress and get this thing going and keep the Night Demon thing going. It's super important. And I think we're doing a good job juggling it,
Yeah, it seems weird because I also listened to the last year's Christmas special earlier today, and I think when we were recording that one, we were all kind of thinking we're getting towards the end of all this. But
I was going to say we probably talked about
another Zoom Christmas.
We've probably talked about the same plans, in a way, at that time, really, because it was the same idea. There's some things obviously that are going to be new and different and cool, but yeah, touring in the spring, or something like that, or touring in the summer, yeah. Last year too. So here we are. We're gonna do it this time though.
Yeah.
coming. It's happening.
Well, you did get back on stage
Yeah, at
in
least we did
2021.
that.
So we did those 2 episodes, the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest and the Stone and Steel Festival. So that must have been pretty cool to get back on the stage
For
after
sure.
that long of a break. I actually looked it up. That show at the Lost Well in Austin, which was like your last show.
Yeah.
February
And then-
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I can't remember. I think like 650 days or something crazy like that.
Yeah, man.
Long
it's,
time.
It's crazy. I'm glad though that we got to, it's weird. I've like doing one-offs has become a lot more difficult for us because of the distance, but I'm glad we did those because, if it basically forced us to do some other things that we really needed to do. So now going into 2022, we have so many touring plans. It feels so much better to not have to come back and push out a recording, So, I mean, I'll just say that without blowing the lid off everything, but we've been doing a lot of recording, and we did a lot in 2020, a lot that nobody heard. And this fall, when Dusty was here, we basically, wrapped up a lot of that and did a lot more writing too. So it's nice to have that stuff in the can. And kind of like the way that I see it, like we were for the first, 10 years of the band, I mean, we were basically just like, we were taking everything we could, and it was like we were so busy, and we were out there just really trying to get our name out for so long. And now I feel like things kind of happen like in seasons, like a sports team,
Right.
There's been some other offers that have come up recently, and they've been good, but it's like we're not mentally prepared for that. We had our own plan of what we're going to do and when we're going to do it, and we've noticed that we're not a great band that can write from the road or just go, oh yeah, we're going to go do this. And we've done it like, with the singles, we were always recording with these other producers and stuff, when we had a few days here and there on the road, or we were in another state or country. But it's just not as productive. You need to focus on that. Big bands have that luxury, they're like, we're recording this year, we're not touring, or we're going to the studio for 6 months. And we've just never had that. So now that we're in this position, I think we just make our own plans and just say, look, here's when we're going to do this stuff, and here's when we're going to do other stuff. And again, the podcast has been something that has kept the band pretty close, and it keeps things really moving along. And every time we get into old episodes and stuff, or old stuff about the band, it kind of sparks new ideas with us. So it's been probably the best thing that could ever happen to this band after the coronavirus thing,
Yeah. Well, it is kind of, a lot of bands, I think, most of the bands that I follow kind of just drop off the radar. You know what I mean?
Bands are like breaking up because of this. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like it's happening, or announcing like farewell shows because during this whole time, they've had to do other things, and then they're like looking at the reality of the situation. And for some bands, they just can't afford it. They're just used to making so much money that they're just like, well, fuck this, like it's just like, because it just keeps getting extended more and more and more.
Yeah.
So I guess I should take this opportunity to say, here's one thing. When we're on the podcast, we talk about a lot of things that we don't post online, because it's just, we know that the people listening to this podcast are true fans, and like they need to kind of know what's up. So like the shows that we have with Sarah Thungle in Europe in January are postponed. We're going to move them till July. But the Netherlands is completely locked down now. Germany's following suit. Austria's got this thing where they're going to start going door to door and injecting people. Like, it's just,
crazy.
It's full on. We've given a lot. The world has given a lot of liberties away, and we're not going to get them back. Without getting too political, it's like,
Yeah.
We're guys who deal with the TSA every other day, and that was a 9/11 thing. It's been 20 years. That has not gone away, and they're not protecting us. They're just fucking with us. So like, I wouldn't expect this this to go away, and I don't expect it to. I just think we're trying to figure out how to navigate, how to do what we do in this world with this happening. But it was one shot, and then it was two, and now it's never going to end. So
it seems like it's never ending.
It's not going to. So this is the reality we're living in, and unfortunately, we've had to just bite the bullet on a lot of things. But what sucks is that we're now in a position where we complied. We complied to the demands, but it's still not enough. And that's the problem with these things. You give up your freedoms and you're like, yes, okay, I'll do what you say. And then they say, well, it's not good enough now. We want more. It doesn't matter that we're fully vaccinated. We still have to take a fucking test every day and pay for it, So, again, I didn't want to get into it like this, but I just think people need to know the reality. Well, the reality of people like us who travel the world all the time. We do it not just for business, but for pleasure too. And that's the way we live. And it's a difficult situation to navigate, man, when you're touring from state to state, country to country. You're crossing borders every day. We don't know what that's going to be like, but we're committed to getting back out to our fans,
Well, I mean, looking at it like at this point, I mean, any kind of touring in the States is a little bit more feasible and possible than it is to go to Europe right now. I mean, and we spent way more time in Europe than we ever did in the States. And it's just an interesting thing to look at and just see where we're at. But at the same time, I'm glad that we're staying productive and we're still doing what we can, and that's kind of like our motto from the beginning of this was we can only do what's in our control and what we can actually, handle on the day to day. So, you can look at the big picture, but as long as we're here doing our thing, I mean, that's important. If we're sitting on music for, however long, I mean, that's just the way it is. We don't want to put stuff out either that's just going to get pushed to the wayside. You put an album out and people listen to it for the first week on Spotify and then it's old news. If
you can't tour on it, then... Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think, we just got to be patient and just do what we can. And
my patience is wearing thin.
Yeah. And what works for us, we don't want to be out on the road and be like, oh yeah, cool. Let's just, go and do this anyway. And then we're stuck at the airport or we're stuck in a country and we can't, I personally don't want to deal with that. And I know the other guys are kind of on the same page. If we want to go do it, we want to be 100% all in, and 100% capacity. And I've seen some shows that are socially distanced and stuff like that. And people sitting at tables and, you want that energy, you want that thing, and if it's not 100%, damn, it sucks.
Well, I went to a show this past weekend, a local band, and it was one of those, limited capacity, and it was seated mostly, and it just it was cool to see some live music, but it wasn't the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sitting at a table watching a band.
The only time we ever play to people in seats is at their weddings.
but they get up.
They got up, and they were rocking. So I don't think we could actually ever do that and feel right about it. It's just be like, what are we doing here? Are we doing this? What's the point of this? Are we doing this because we need it, or are we just giving in to those shit? So I'd rather wait, So
this past weekend, Armand and I went up to San Francisco to see the 40th anniversary Metallica shows.
Ooh yeah,
yeah.
So we were up there, and they just checked our vaccine card. I just had it a scan on my phone, and that was fine. And they let us into an arena with 25,000 people for 2 nights. But we went to a black metal show, like a DIY show at a warehouse, and they wanted me to download this track and trace app, or they wouldn't let me in because I didn't have my card. And I was like, I didn't do that. But it's just crazy. The point is this. I mean, I'm not getting too political, but the reality is that it's different from place to place. Even in the same city, it's different from club to club. There's a friend of ours in a band, some friends of ours. They were on tour this last month, and they had their biggest show was canceled the day of because one of the crew guys had COVID, but everybody in the bands tested negative. But that's how it goes. So one-offs are definitely a thing, and one-offs can work. Touring is a lot more difficult. I mean, even in the States, it's you just don't know. But we can't lose those shows. We can't lose the big show.
But if you talk about what you just said, like, the Metallica show, 25,000 people, and you look at like all of major sports, they're letting everybody in, no masks, full capacity, but then they're going to bust your balls for a house show. Like puts
There's a lot more money involved
what we
there.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly. It puts what we do.
But there's no logic to anything.
No, it's not. That's the problem. There's no standards. It's not. And I get it. I mean, they're trying to figure out what the fuck works or what is going on. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if one guy gets it and you have to cancel a whole show, just test everybody else and delay them home. Or,
that's the thing.
Okay,
that's the thing. Yeah,
he can't go in. Fine, but let the show go on. I mean, Jesus, that's a little ridiculous.
Right. If everybody else tests negative, yes. But the thing is, but if another guy comes in like dying with the flu, they wouldn't have no problem letting him in.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, I will say when we came back from that North Carolina trip, a lot of us in both bands, Night Demon and Sarah Thungle, got pretty sick. But it was just, it was like a cold or something. But it's like we hadn't been around people in so long. I mean, I guess that's natural. And our natural immunity just kind of fought that off. And
dude, when we were touring super heavy, I mean, how many shows did we play where we had like, we were talking about this the other day, Jarvis and I, like he had like a cough for like a month. And, I'm like, there's a picture of me signing this kid's stuff where I'm in the van with gloves and a beanie and like 18 jackets on, freezing in my sleeping bag, and I go up and I play the gig and, I'm around people all night, definitely had the flu or whatever would be considered coronavirus now or something. I mean, it's a different time and, it is what it is.
It's here to stay though. And that's what I'm saying. It's here to stay. And we have to figure out some way to make the quote unquote new normal.
Well, what stinks too is like, when we play these one-offs, we're not in tour shape. There's a difference. Like when Night Demon's on the road, like we're like one of the nastiest bands out there. And I think that's, that's one thing I remember like hearing other bands talk about is like, like when they see us play, they're just like, damn, you guys are super tight. When we're like, when we're in road mode, it's a different ball game.
It is.
It's hard to get in the swing of things when we're just playing these one-offs. And it's like, I feel like we're not, at our full potential, even though we've gotten better as players, we've gotten better as songwriters, we've gotten better all around. I'm curious to see what it's like when we do finally get into that momentum.
So how did you find that, like those last two shows that you played?
I mean, I think we pulled it off.
Did you find you guys were rusty at all, or did you?
There's moments I think that we all felt, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think for the most part,
because it sounded great when I was listening to the.
Yeah, I think we pulled it off. I think we faked it enough and made it sound good. Like, because a lot of people said they were like, "Fuck, man! Like, how the hell did you guys? What were you doing this whole time? You must have been playing every day." We're like, "Nah, we just kind of got together for a week, before the show and rehearsed for 5 days straight." But even then, you can rehearse all you want in the rehearsal room, but touring kind of mode is still different, But we just have to, you just got to get out there. I think we were all excited, especially the Decibel Fest. It was a big, cool venue. We were seeing our friends, like the Sacred Right guys, and that got me pumped up. And as soon as we hit that stage, and it was a short set, so like I think we just fucking crammed it in and just really destroyed ourselves and the show. Because I think we all felt it afterwards for sure. How much tape did you have on your hands, Dusty, after that?
Dude, I had so many blisters on my hands. It was insane.
That sucks. You can't do anything to prepare for that, right? I mean, what the hell?
No. I mean, I've been keeping up with playing drums here in PA. I bought myself an electronic kit, and it's just because I can't be playing drums at 100 decibels every day, every hour.
You need to go outside with a axe and start chopping wood, dude, and get your hands all fucking done up.
Like Eugene.
Yeah. But it's a different ball game. I can be like practicing all day, but when we're in the room and like we're hatching it out, and there's all that energy, and especially when we're playing shows and like all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a different ball game. There's a lot more energy and exertion that goes into it. So, we're definitely not like in shape, but we've all put the time in throughout the year to make sure that we're up to par, so that when we come, the last thing I wanted to do when I met up with the guys was be out of shape and, have them look at me and be like, what the hell were you doing all year? So I knew that when I came out there that I, was prepared enough to like, continue the writing process and also, execute what we've already written and keep that going. So,
Yeah,
there's that.
one thing that's helped me a lot is with actually this podcast has made me much better of a live player. So like, Nesbit, you asking for what's called the stems, which is basically the isolated individual tracks, right? I was able to put those on my computer and take out the bass track and basically, throughout the year play with the band, like to the tracks of the live album. And also the thing is, I knew that we were going to be recording every show from here on out for this podcast. And so I'm really conscious now about how we perform. It's always on my mind about how we sound. So we upgraded and got some in-ear monitors, and it's a bit of a difficult situation to execute, but we've done it, and it's helped me a lot vocally, just being able to hear myself. And I listen back to those recordings, and even though there's mistakes, there's always going to be mistakes. I definitely think we sound pretty tight and pretty good as a band who hasn't gotten together too much. So, yeah, I'm really proud. Those two shows, and turning those into podcast episodes was a really good thing looking back on it. So we're definitely going to be doing a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Just, I know even like 74 episodes ago when we started the podcast, we always intended to do a lot of from the road live stuff, but then it never kind of worked out. So it's finally working out.
70 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool. And it's cool. I don't know. I guess listeners would find the same thing, but where I can't get to the shows, for me to be able to hear them and hear interviews with people there and stuff, and you can kind of get a bit of like the atmosphere and like the, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the one thing
to be able to capture that for the podcast.
I really liked about those episodes is having that. It was cool having, like Kit running around the venue, during the show, and you hear the background shit, and it really does kind of set the atmosphere instead of like a little stale backstage interview thing with the guy. It reminded me of those, like the old days of the MTV thing, and Cindy Crawford's walking around the movie awards backstage and like, oh, here's this guy. Hey, who are you? Oh yeah, what are you doing here? And so that was really cool. So I hope we can keep that vibe going when we do this more touring and all that. And it's really cool. It's like an extra.
Yeah,
part
they were
of the
really
show.
fun episodes to do. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, the past year I loved the Cirith Ungol episodes, which was cool for me just because I was familiar with them, but I wasn't like a huge fan. And after doing that, like I'm a huge fan now. And just knowing how close you guys are to those guys, it's kind of cool.
Nice.
And then stuff like the early years was cool. Like, how did you guys feel? Like, when's the last time that you listened to a lot of those early bands that you were in, the audio? Like, Systematic Addict?
I mean, that was...
Satellite
that was the
Heartbeat
thing.
stuff?
When we got into that, I mean, I think it was kind of like, when you're in the tour mode and you're out there and you're just busting ass every day, you kind of forget where you started from, and to go back and listen to that, and it was really humbling and... really cool to like go back and, and just think of the process and how it was done and how excited, I was at that time to write original music with my friends, even though it was so unorganized and chaotic and just, terrible. It served its purpose. And I know like, even for the guys that I was in that band with, they still talk about those days, and it's something that you'll never forget, and, I think it was the right place at the right time to go back and do that, because I had to ask my little sister for the demos because I didn't have them, and she's like, oh, I got those, and sent them over to me, so yeah, I think it was cool for all of us to, kind of get back and listen to some old stuff, and also like putting it out there for the fans too, to like, let them listen to where we all started from, so I think that was a cool thing to do. I don't know, man, how many bands would be brave enough to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's cool for me because like a lot of what we talk about in the early years, you guys, weren't even in the band together yet, but there's all these little stories with the three of you guys that all kind of like overlap and weave. And it's kind of cool to see how, your guys' histories, even when you weren't all in the band yet, all kind of like overlap. That's kind of cool to put that into
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think those
timeline.
episodes, like, I was in Ireland and, like, telling my assistant, like, to go in my closet, and, like, we were FaceTiming, and I'm like, no, it's that box. And, like, she'd find CDs, and I'd be like, take him to Armand to digitize. And, like, I I think the coolest thing about all that was, like, the other guys in the bands. I think it, like, I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people that were in those bands that we were in, that it made them feel good because they finally got to tell their story, where they don't have a platform like us to do that. And to some of these guys, it's the best thing and the biggest thing that they ever did musically. Some of them, it's the only thing they ever did musically, you know? So it was really cool for everybody that we surrounded ourselves with, everybody that's kind of like in our extended family of music, you know? Aside from the great story arc of how the three of us are connected between all these things that go back fucking decades. It's really crazy to think about. And we actually could have got a lot deeper. There's more bands, there's more projects. We just decided to hit on the ones that really mattered, or that really counted, and the bands that released stuff and you know, all that. But I mean, it was, there's been a lot of things. It's weird to realize how we ended up here. And I'm glad that this band stuck, to be honest. Because if it didn't, there would have been more. I'm telling you, there would have been more between us. I know it, you know.
Yeah. Did you say stunk or stuck?
Stuck. What do you think, Armand, was your experience like with all that?
Yeah, the same. I mean,
I
guess for me, there's a little bit more of, you know, I'm a little more in touch with some of those guys, I guess, because over the years we've still kind of done some things here and there. But yeah, I agree. My favorite part was handing the mic to the other guys and hearing their perspective on it, especially with the From Satellite dudes. I think that really, you know, because that band, like, I mean, there was a crazy story there. And I don't think they ever, you know, they never got to tell anybody that besides their friends or family, you know, and like, so yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of that whole process too. You know, going back over the music was a little cool, but like I said, it's still every once in a while I just dig back into that stuff and, you know, kind of remember or somebody will bring it up, and so it's not like I haven't heard any of the music for like 20 years, but getting those stories from those guys and, you know, then the New Liberty thing, how that morphed into this band, you know, and getting those guys, there's always funny stories there. And so no, it was a really cool thing to do. I'm glad we went there. You know, sometimes you'd think like, oh man, I don't know, you know, some of that stuff was so different from what we're doing now. Like, I don't want anybody to really know about it, but I think we're all confident in what we're doing now. And we all know our roots. So whatever, if anybody's going to, you know, have something to say about it, then fuck it, you know. But I saw it was all positive from what I saw, comment wise.
Yeah,
so.
Were you guys worried about that at all when you were like talking about all these other projects?
We were, but here's the thing I realized at the end of the day, it's like you get worried about it because your heroes or the people before you that are influence you, they try and shun stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And then you find out about it, and it becomes an embarrassing thing to them or something that they don't want to be known for. And at the end of the day, I think it's something, as much as Night Demon, you could say Night Demon is I guess doesn't have a very original sound of the times, right? I think that we're very original in a lot of our approach and a lot of the things we do. So it's scary to do something when nobody else has done it. I think that's the scariest part, right? Once you do it, you realize how much people really enjoy that stuff, you know, and they go, wow, these guys are so versatile. And the fact that they've done all these other styles of music and then come back to metal that's why their metal sounds the way it does, right? You know, it's got more musicianship to it. And, you know, it's funny, even thinking about Armand mentioning From Satellite, it's like, it's crazy to think that a band that had 2 major label deals and a shit ton of money in the way of recording advances and big management and big producers, like that album is still not even on any digital streaming platforms. Yeah. It just doesn't exist. It went away into the ether. and the record industry spent about $1 million on it, at the end of the day.
That's crazy.
So it's like, I'm really happy that we were able to shed some light on that, I mean, even if it's to metal fans or whatever, it just proves that, I mean, there's a higher purpose to what we're doing here, and that was a really good feeling to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I found that cool, like doing the podcast. You go into these like aspects of Night Demon, and sometimes it'll be an episode that I'm like, okay, you kind of have in your head, it's going to be one thing, and then you get into it, and there's all these little like stories inside, like the Run for Your Life. I knew that song, but then to hear the story behind it and stuff, it was like, that was a crazy episode, and I was like, I was not expecting that. Not expecting that.
It's a crazy story, man.
I was like, we'll break the song down and we'll talk about it, but then I didn't realize. And there's like, it seems like every stone you turn over, there's something like crazy underneath.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you don't realize it until you actually get into it. And when you had the idea to start this podcast, my biggest fear was like, how are we going to talk about this band every week? Are we really that interesting? Is there enough to talk about? And then sure enough, once you start digging in, it's like, man, we have content, we have ideas for years, So yeah. But what's one thing, touring in a band will take you around the world. It'll take you to some amazing places, but it'll also take you to some pretty dark places that you probably would never be either, And that was definitely one of those scenarios.
So something that we really haven't had a chance to talk about on the podcast, just because we've never had we don't really have episodes where we bring out news so much, but Frost and Fireland.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're going to be bringing Frost and Fire back next year. We're bringing it to Ireland, to Derry, Northern Ireland, the place that I've been spending a lot of time. It's an amazing city for metal. Not that there's a huge metal scene, but I mean, just the scenery and the original walls around the city with the cannons on it. So we're doing that at the Nerve Center in June, and we've got a killer lineup. Brian Downey from Thin Lizzy is doing his band there, which they're amazing. I recommend checking that out on YouTube. Brian Downey's Alive and Dangerous. The lineup he has is great. And just the usual suspects, Sarah Thungle, Satan, Midnight, Night Demon, Mithra, Witch Hazel, all of our bands. I mean, we kind of keep it a little incestuous with these things, but most of those bands haven't even played in Ireland. Besides the Irish bands on the bill, I think Night Demon's the only band that's played in Ireland besides those other bands. So it's a big exclusive. And actually, we've already sold a lot of tickets to people in Ireland, so they're excited about it. So yeah, we're bringing it there, and that's in the middle of our tour with Midnight. We'll be doing a lot of summer festivals out in Europe. And then eventually we'll be bringing it back to the States. I mean, we got to do that. But again, we're just kind of, we're waiting for all these lockdowns we want lockdowns to be a thing of the past. I understand that masks and vaccines will not be. I can accept that. But the lockdown thing it's too much. It doesn't work, and it's hurting people. People get sick when they go to the grocery store once. The arts are the last thing here, music and the arts. I mean, the governments have basically left the arts to die on the vine, and that's always been the case. So, we have to keep fighting and doing what we know how to do, and that's part of that is bringing festivals like this back. We were going to do it at a much nicer venue. I had to meet with a lot of city council members out there because it's a city venue, but eventually, at the end of the day, they wanted to cut their capacity because of COVID a year in advance. And I was just not willing to do that. So we're taking it back to the club. But that'll be cool. And that is something that I am confident that will happen.
Yeah, no, the lineup looks awesome. I was looking at the poster. Looks awesome too. That's pretty cool. And Frost and Fireland is a cool name.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can only do it in places that rhyme with, we can make part of the name.
Start
Yeah,
with ire.
I have to keep that a thing, somehow.
Going back to the Christmas theme, I know the audience can't see this, but we are I'm busy mailing out the Night Demon holiday cards here. They came late, but you guys will get them. And actually, they're not even. I ordered postcards, but they ended up being stickers.
I was going to say, it looks pretty glossy.
Yeah, they're postcard size, but a sticker's cooler anyway.
Yeah.
So we might throw something extra in there, and we'll get that out to all the subscribers out there. So, yeah. There's there is some Christmas stuff happening here on our end. What are all you guys doing? What are you doing for Christmas, Nesbit?
Hanging out with the kids. We were supposed to have a bunch of family come over, but they just announced like this quarantine thing that you have to do. You have to isolate. So all my relatives aren't coming now.
You are isolated. You're on like a tiny
I know,
island.
you can't get more isolated. Yeah, it's just, the usual. Hanging
Dusty?
out with the kids.
Christmas Eve, I'm going to go to my uncle's, hang out with my dad's side of the family, and then Christmas, I hang out with my mom and our family at home, and then that's about it. It's super chill. I think that's the thing, too. It's like the big family parties are kind of people aren't really doing it, so it's just more immediate family than anything.
Unless you go to Metallica shows with 50,000 people where,
Family.
family,
Metallica
family.
family.
It's like the Metallica family,
Do you feel good?
Yeah, we're not
so
motherfuckers
we were all-
anymore. We're now the Metallica family. I miss
Oh,
that.
It was a televised event.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll give them that.
That's true. Okay.
What are you doing, Armo?
I mean, we'll see. I don't know now because, like, Thanksgiving was the first time that all of the surrounding family kind of got together for the first time. Like, my one aunt is always kind of the rule follower, and so she's always a little hesitant. And she's supposed to host a Christmas Day thing, but I don't know. There's a few days to see what happens before that, But whatever. I got my immediate family here, and that's the most important thing, I guess. And just hang out, get drunk, and eat a bunch of good food. So sounds good to me,
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be kind of doing the same, but our gatherings too have gotten smaller and people are being spread out. It's kind of weird because, when I was younger, it was like mandatory, and like we had all these things to go to, a big extended family, or I guess dysfunctional families that become extended families. You make the rounds. But I'm supposed to go back to Ireland here at some point, and it's like I keep thinking every day, like, should I just go today? Because, I don't know when, like I said, these lockdown things, they just keep being imposed. And when they talk about canceling like the NBA season and shit like that, I'm like, oh boy, here we go, Yeah, but yeah, my plan is to go there for a little bit and keep working on music. We're at that point where it's time for me to sing again. So we'll be talking more about that in the upcoming episodes. But it's pretty exciting. We've got a pretty awesome 2022 coming up, regardless of what the state of the world is and regardless of what we get restricted on doing or not doing. We have a ton of touring plans. We've got a lot of shows planned, and we've got a lot of music to be released in 2022, more so than ever. So I look forward to talking about that very soon with all you guys.
Yeah, I've heard a bit of the plans that you guys have, and it's going to be a big year. Some big announcements next week.
How long has it technically been since 2017 was Darkness, right?
Yeah, 2018, summer 2018 was the live record, but the singles came out, starting in April of 2020. So that was new music, that we put out. So
right. Just seems like I can't believe it's that long ago,
It is, and the thing is, crazy. Time has really flown by. It's really weird because I look at, I planned so much ahead with the business end of the band, and I'm writing years wrong now. Like I'm writing 2022 on 2021 stuff or 2021 on 2022 stuff. And it's like, it's hard to keep track now because all these things that were supposed to happen, we've pushed back 2 years now. And some of it might get pushed back a third year. And it's like, it's just crazy to think about the mundaneness of life, right? Where I'm like, weren't we just here doing this? Weren't we just here recording these singles or planning to put them out, And it's like, man, that was almost 2 years ago,
I think about like when we did like Empire's Fall and how like we were at NAMM talking about getting that song recorded, and like it doesn't seem that long ago, but that was
2019.
That was January of 2019 is when that was.
Yeah.
Shit, that's so gnarly.
Yeah. We'll get into that story,
Oh yeah, we'll get into that soon enough. Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool getting together with you guys all at the same time, because I talked to all of you individually and, you know, in various like digital ways. But I mean, it was a year ago since I talked to you guys all at the same time. So it's kind of cool.
It's always good to see you, man. It's always good to see you. Thank you for all your hard
Christmas
work.
tradition now.
And keeping this thing going.
Fun fact, it's been a year since we all talked to you at the same time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mind blown, bro. Yeah. No, I want to second that. Dusty, thanks for all the fucking work, man. Again, you blow my mind every week when you're able to weave together all our disconnected stories or pieces of shit, you know, like sometimes I'm like, how is he gonna fucking put all this shit together? You know, especially some of the old, you know, the early years with all the different band members. I mean, I was like, oh man, because I kept thinking like, well, shit, should I get this guy in, and you know, Jarvis, you have other guys in. I'm like, all right, but he killed it, and yeah, thanks again.
Yes.
I
got my Christmas wish, and that's having you around to do this podcast. So thanks. I mean, it's amazing. It really is amazing. It's the glue that's held us together through this pandemic. It really is, man. And like, I'm really looking forward to where this goes.
Yeah, well, 74 episodes in, and I feel like we have a ton of stuff still to talk about. A ton.
But let's just let the podcast audience know that we have a very big announcement next week for episode 75, and we have a theme that's going to be running on the podcast from the new year up through spring that we're going to be consistent with, and we're really going to dive into something, and it's going to be a lot of fun to get deep into what I'm not going to say and what we'll be talking about starting next week.
Tune in next week if you want to find out. So yeah, a big announcement next week. And a lot of cool episodes coming up. So anyway, thanks guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank
everyone.
you. Merry Christmas to you, Nesbit.
Merry Christmas. Happy
All right.
Krampus.
So that was our live Christmas episode. It was pretty cool to get on with all the guys at the same time. Stay tuned for next week, where we have a pretty big announcement being made. So definitely be sure to tune in and find out what that is. Until then, have a great holiday. And we'll see you in the new year. I'm going to leave you again with 2 tracks from some previous projects that the guys in Night Demon put out, you know, years ago. One, New Liberty track, which is a cover of a Spinal Tap song, Christmas with the Devil. And we played it last Christmas special, but it's pretty cool, and I really like it, and I just wanted to drop it in here again. And then a never-before-heard song on this podcast by Jarvis's old band, The Heartbeats. It's called I Don't Believe in Christmas. So I'm going to play these 2 tunes and play out. Until next week, and until next year, have a great holiday, and this is Nesbit signing off.
The elves
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time. All the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.